Welcome everyone to this week's Founder Chat. I'm so excited to be here this week talking to Humaira Ahmed, who is the CEO of Locelle. It is a global platform dedicated to advancing women in the workplace, and they do this through one-on-one mentorship as well as career development opportunities. I'm not going to dig into all of that right now. It's so incredible, and you've had such an interesting story that I know we're going to really get into the origin story, but also all the lessons learned along the way. And actually, Humaira, I was looking into when we met. I couldn't remember, to be honest. It feels like it's been years, but apparently it was June 2018 that we were introduced by Chin, who's now the founder of the Classy Narwhal, but was with Spring. And he was like, you know what? I think you need to meet. You need to see, where are there synergies between what you're doing with women in tech world. It wasn't even Volition that was looped in at the time, but it's been such a cool journey to watch what you've done, and I know it's been so many lessons learned and pivots and then pivots back, and then I don't know, but you still kind of like stayed true to what you wanted since the beginning, which is amazing. And I'm really excited to share that story with everyone here today. So if you haven't been to a founder chat before and you're joining us now or joining us later on IGTV or YouTube, essentially we're going to have 30 minutes of a bit of a casual conversational interview. Please do ask questions if you're here or later. Jump in the chat, say hi, let us know where you're joining us from, and also let us know if you have any questions, and we'll get into that. And we're just gonna learn about what Locelle's about, and what Humaira can share with us in terms of what she's learned over the last few years and beyond as well. So without further ado, I wanted to hand this over to you and kind of get this started with a little bit about who you are, but like why Locelle? Like, where did this start? What are those origin stories, and what is your tie to your why around why you started this?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
And you're right, it's been a long time. I feel like startup because we've been around for over 3 years now. And it feels like 30 years.
Yeah,
no kidding.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you've been kind of part of the journey since the beginning, pretty much, because we were like 6 months into it when we met. So I am Humaira. I am the CEO at Locelle. I call myself international citizen. I was born and raised in Karachi, Pakistan. And moved to Canada at the age of 20. So I still have lived in Pakistan more than I've lived in Canada, which is so wild. So lived in Toronto for 5 years. That's where I completed my bachelor's in communication studies. I was doing software engineering there, but I was one of the few women or the only women in my computer science classes at York University. So I ended up dropping out. And that's part of my why. But then ended up working in marketing communications for tech companies for over a decade. And then had, moved to BC, had a little family. I have 2 daughters. They are now 5 and 7. And it was when Gia was born. So Gia is the 5-year-old now. So basically, 1 year into my maternity leave, obviously I was itching to get back to work. And that's where I first felt those feelings of isolation coming back of, okay, well, when you are either one of the few or the only one, it can be incredibly obviously isolating, but also you do at that time need to really connect with other people who are in your shoes so that you can relate, you can, explore opportunities, navigate challenges. And that is where I wanted to build something for women where like-minded women would come together, connect with each other. So it wouldn't be so isolating. That was kind of the premise of my pain point, and then learning around me that women working in male-dominated industries, especially tech, we just have this, I think things are changing, they're getting better, but still the loneliness is still there. And so that was kind of the premise of Locelle. So I started Locelle, launched the app. It was the networking app. That was the easiest way because at the time, networking wasn't so prevalent. And even on LinkedIn, it was so hard to easily reach out to people and say, let's connect for coffee or whatever that may be. And so I wanted to make that easier and relaunch this location-based networking app, connecting women based on common interests and goals. And that's how we were connected. Through Chin, because I connected with Chin through Spring Impact Accelerator. And that's where he was like, well, women in tech world is doing some amazing work. You should connect and see if you can work together, collaborate in any capacity. And so we met. And yeah, since then, I think, I'm fortunate to call you a friend. Like, I think I can reach out to you, if there's any challenges I'm facing, which are kind of constant. But yeah, so that was the premise. But then for 2 years, we ended up doing that, just again, the networking app. But in terms of business model too, nobody gave me money at the
Yeah,
time,
I
when we
know.
launched the app. It was such a circus. And I'm sure for a lot of founders, it still is a circus. But I think one thing, and is that okay if I share my lessons kind of as part of my story too?
Wherever it
Like,
comes naturally to you. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, I think that was the one thing that I should have really thought about when you get into this, tech startup. It can seem very sexy, it can seem very
Yeah,
appealing. Like, this is amazing. This is where, like, everybody looks up to you and you look up to others. But I think one of the lessons that I've learned the hard way is that you don't always need external capital. You,
right.
you know, yes,
Yeah,
it sounds when you hear, and I think it's part of like media too, where they glorify that, oh, X company raised this much money and this is what they're doing. And so you get into this whole world of, oh, I need to raise capital. And you don't even
yeah.
know as
No.
a first time startup founder.
What's the best thing for you? What's the best thing for your
And
company?
why are
Yeah,
you raising, right? So it's like, why are you raising? What is that going to get you to?
yeah,
Are these the right people that you need to be raising from? But also, I think it's just then that's where you start to build a smoke and mirrors, because you need to sell your dream. You need to sell the story. And
right.
to be able to sell the story, you need to make shit up. And in that process, you start to change like
Right.
what you're actually like set out to do.
Kind of gets away from you.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and so I think that was the biggest mistake that I made early on, is to have one, just think, okay, if I have a tech company, I need to raise.
yeah,
Another thing along those lines is to have too many mentors. I had way too many mentors. That was a problem. And guess what we're doing now? But it's interesting because not everybody, one, understands your space.
yeah.
And so they're giving their feedback, or their kind of advice based on their own experiences and their even limited knowledge, which may not be relevant to you or your company. Another thing is, also where you are, what you're selling, who you're selling to, as well as the investors. Some of them that I was talking to come from Silicon Valley, and they were like, oh yeah, easily $5 million valuation. And then you
Right.
talk to people around you and they're like, yeah, you're crazy. Like, there's no way your company's worth more than $1 million. Anyway, so
Yeah.
a lot of, having too many different mentors, not knowing even at that time what my core values were with Locelle. Like, I didn't even know that. And yeah, and then just having those experiences. I guess nobody can prepare you. It's like having a baby. I
Right.
always say, like, people can give you advice, insights, and their experiences, but nobody can prepare you for your own. So those are the two things that I learned very early on, is like having too many mentors is not actually a good thing. You need to first realize, and not every person you meet who has been successful can be a good advisor for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's one. And then the other, obviously, is that not every company needs to raise capital, external capital, equity capital. One, two, not every company should raise.
Yeah.
The one is about, yeah, like, if investors are coming to you, like, should you even consider that? How much time are you going to invest in that? And I could easily say that's like, wow, at least hundreds of hours just wasted. I mean, I shouldn't
Right.
say all wasted, because there's lessons learned there too, but definitely, yeah. So long story short, through that, we still continue to build this app. And then COVID hit when we were just starting to monetize with our enterprise model, where we would
Right.
connect women coming from bigger companies, connecting with each other privately, based on their common interests and goals. Because locally at any, especially big companies, locally at any given site, you might be one of the few, one of the only ones, or may not connect with women around you. But
Yeah.
globally, you're so many women strong. So creating that easier access. We had our first Fortune 500 client. We were so excited. We had a few pending, and then COVID hit. And that's when I learned another lesson, is that essentially we had become, or we were, and I just didn't know that, a vitamin and not a painkiller.
Mm.
That was a painful lesson,
Mm-hmm.
because all this time, I'm a woman who's worked in the tech industry for a long time. I'm a woman who's strong, who's a dreamer, who goes after all the things that she wants, but yet I felt isolated and I wanted to make that easier for other women, but who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
And when companies, even when we first started to get our first customers, I was so excited, Mel. Like I was like, wow, like we've found product market fit. Was I wrong? Because when COVID hit, every company that we were working with, and these were bigger companies, they went into crisis management. They went into things that were absolutely essential, like even working from home setups, right? Like a desk was more important than our app.
Yeah.
And at a time when some companies had to lay off staff, they weren't going to introduce a new service.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's when I learned that we needed to pivot.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
And I think like you were saying, like all this waste of time, but on that side, I'm just also thinking about how I know you have become a mentor and a role model for so many women. So you going through all of these experiences and learning about that capital raising journey and learning about like how do you find mentors that are actually aligned and what do you take in and what do you leave behind, and this journey that you went on in the vitamin and the painkiller kind of journey that we often talk about, that's one that a lot of founders, when you're so close to your idea and you're like this, but this is like, this is solving something really important. So like having to shift into, but maybe it's not something people are willing to pay for, or it's like a nice to have that, as you say, is the first thing to go. That's such a hard kind of lesson to learn. And so we're all learning from you, and I'm so sorry you had to go through all of it as well.
Oh, wow.
But it is, and it's like
happy to take one for the team.
Well, I think it's interesting because I think it's also a product of the timing, because with the capital aspect, I was looking back at it, it feels like kind of when I got in 2015, that's when like Dragon's Den, like everything was starting to be like, yes, like raise capital, equity raising. And like, I feel like that, it was very bootstrappy. Like entrepreneurship wasn't even something that was considered, I don't know, a viable career path. Like it was kind of this like dirty word in a lot of different areas of the world, including here. And it's just like, so you were bootstrapping, you were just figuring out how to make money and make it. And then all of a sudden it was just this equity push. And now what I'm seeing more and more is people starting to talk about alternative fundraising and crowdfunding and microloans and other kinds of raising that are more prevalent in other cultures that I didn't even know about. So it's really interesting to see that shift. So I feel like you also came in that like horrible, like really horrible moment where it was like, this is the way you do it, and that's it.
Yeah, but you know what though, this is what kind of keeps me going, is that every decision that was really painful. I mean, we were so close to closing our round, or so I thought. This was early 2019. We had term sheets, we had some investor interest. We were super close. I was out there all the time. And the one thing I consistently heard was, you are an incredible entrepreneur. Like, we have seen you, be out there, and you can sell and you can do all these things. And you seem to have this resilience and, perseverance. And that's what we look for. But I think there's such a disconnect in even what investors like to believe in and what they share. So, or what they actually do. So a lot of times you'll hear people say, oh, we back founders. It's the founders that will make or break the business, even if you have an amazing idea, but the founder is not, in it for the right reasons, or the founder is not the right fit, the company's going to fail, and we'd rather invest in the founder than the idea.
Yeah.
And I kind of call BS on that, because I think, if everybody around me, like, and now I heard not a single person, not even here, say that Humaira is not a great entrepreneur. Everybody said the same thing. She's a great entrepreneur. So if I am a great entrepreneur, then invest in my business, right? Because I'll make it work. So if that's what you truly believe in, I'll make it work.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in that, then don't say that, So I think so from that perspective, and I think there are some amazing investors that I've come to kind of call friends even, and they would also say the same things, that, people really believe in you, that whether or not Locelle will be successful, you will be successful. And I think that's such an honor for me to hear from these people. But at the same time, it's where the money is at. If they're not investing in you, they don't, I don't know if they truly believe in you.
Yeah.
So so I went through a lot of challenges with fundraising, and I think it kind of it helped me learn a lot of lessons. So I wouldn't take any of that back, maybe some of it back. But overall, I will say this, that because I went through all those challenges with investors, I learned who I want to, if I ever were to raise money, what kinds of people do I want to raise money from? Yeah. And so I think, and that's an incredible, valuable lesson, because I've seen companies fail because of just that issue of investors not aligning with the founder. Yeah. And so, I mean, it was painful, but another thing that I've learned through that is sometimes things happen and they are super painful. They hurt a lot, maybe even your ego a little bit, but they might be better for you and your business in the long run.
Absolutely.
So we actually ended up getting a loan from BDC in 2019 when investors were not investing. And I think that's where I was like, you know what, if BDC is going to give me this loan, and I got an amazing account manager. Shout out to Olivier. He's now in Montreal, but he was in Vancouver at the time, and he just loved our vision. And he said, you know what, we can give you a loan. Sure, I had to put, myself as a guarantor, but I was not afraid to do that. And I also asked myself this: if I am not willing to invest in my business, why should others? Right. And I really took that to heart. Yeah. Was it easy? No. But was I determined? Yeah. And worst case, I was like, you know what? If this loan, if Locelle has to be shut down or whatever happens, this business fails, this is an investment in my journey. This is an investment in my growth. And I think that perspective really made it easy. It's like you spend how much money to do an MBA, at least from a really reputable organization or institution, it's at least $80K. And so for me, that was an investment in myself, and no MBA can prepare you for life and business world more than a startup. So so that was my perspective. And now I'm so happy I was not successful in raising equity financing.
So with all these lessons learned, you kind of brought us up to speed in terms of where you were at with kind of the beginnings of COVID and realizing, you know what, we need to pivot here. And speaking about your resilience and speaking about that kind of energy that you have and that you protect as well and have learned how to protect, which we will get to. I know, and it's always ups and downs, and sometimes we forget and whatever, but talk us through where are we at today? Like what was that pivot? What does Locelle look like now?
Yeah, so again, I think COVID was awful for everybody in different ways. But I will say this: when COVID hit and we learned, or I learned really painfully, one of my team members had left earlier in Feb of 2020, and we had one developer left. So we were 3 left, and then it was just the senior developer and myself. I really learned that I needed to do something. Like, we needed a change. So when I talked about the vitamin and the painkiller, that when we finally built this, I'd invested so much time and money into building this enterprise solution. We had our first customer, which was amazing. And then we had a few contracts pending. I was so excited, Mel. I remember in early March, I was also celebrated at Science World. My pictures might still be there, but I was just like, things are happening. We have these amazing clients. I was paid for my speaking engagements, which I was like, wow, that's amazing. And then COVID hit. And that's when I really realized that nobody wanted to invest in what I had built when it comes to customer money, because we didn't raise, we were going to grow through customer revenues. Yeah. And nobody was, all the companies were like, and I also felt guilty because I was like here trying to sell this where I knew the companies were struggling. And here's another lesson learned. So everybody around me, Mel, said, Humaira, like when I say everybody, like all the other founders, they were like, you have a product or software that solves the isolation piece. Now is the time to open it up, go all out, offer it for free to everybody. And then when COVID is ending, or not COVID is ending, but like 6 months from now, you can start to monetize. And by then, people would be hooked on it. And at that point, I made this decision that I'm so proud of, which was so hard to make it. I was like, no, people are paying for Zoom. if what I have built is so important and so needed to connect these women who are disproportionately being affected by COVID, companies should pay for it. And I remember everybody was like, you're crazy. You can just go, right? You can just go all out and use this chance to really grow your user base. And here I was thinking, I'm running out of money. I have literally no money left to further invest in this app. If I start to, and sure, even assume, let's say everybody wants what I have for free for now, who's going to pay for the database costs? Yeah. Then I'm going to have to look for a sponsor, because I cannot pay for like 10,000 plus users on the platform right now, because there's costs associated with that. And I was not willing to invest any more money into something that companies would not pay for. Yeah. And so that was the one big lesson learned, that at that time, Mel, even though we had customers, we've had over 2,000 people on the app, women in tech, which is great, but they're not giving me money. They're not giving us money to grow. And at that point, I realized one of my most painful lessons, which is I did not have product market fit. And it's weird, because when you get people say, oh, here's how I got 100 users. Good for you, but you don't have product market fit. Yeah. And having users, having all this media, having even your first paying client does not mean you have product market fit. And that was hard to swallow, because if I did have product market fit, we would be growing without that much pain. Pain is always there, but without that much pain. Yeah. If you have to convince people that they need this, no, you don't have product market fit. And so we looked into our data, and we found that as part of onboarding onto the app, over 87% of the women were interested in connecting with a mentor, and 30% wanted to be mentors. And I was like, we have this data right here. And those connections were happening. People were connecting, but one, they were not facilitated. Yeah. Two, there was no data around it. Like, how many women actually connected? What are they connecting about? Like, how can we make this better? So that's where, startup experience really, really helped. And so we had no team by this time left. It was just myself. Right. The good thing that COVID brought about was not just learning, this rude awakening that you don't have product market fit, Humaira, but another thing was, the government opened up some loans. That was a huge blessing for me, because I had no money left. So we got a little bit of money. I hired an intern, and we put together in 1 month, this mentorship program, super manual at the time. It was just, I knew that mentorship was what women also wanted, but we wanted to do it in a way that went beyond one coffee, right? We wanted it to be more, how is this helping you grow? How is this helping you through this tough time that we're all going through? Perhaps some women wanted a no cookie cutter approach, right? It had to be tailored, because we're all individuals. We all have different needs and, goals. Somebody was struggling with, say, work-life balance. I'm a mother of two. I was so struggling with that. Some women were struggling with, how do I ask, I was so overdue for this promotion. I was going to talk about it. How do I ask for it now in this pandemic, right? How do I further advance my career? Do I have to take a back seat? So there was a lot of challenges, and that's where we thought, okay, where we can come in is if we provide, and looking back into my experiences of mentorship too, what were some of the biggest challenges? So I wrote down all those challenges. Why does mentorship fail? Yeah. As a program, as a platform, where are these challenges? And we wanted to solve those challenges. So we started with this, we're going to pre-screen everybody. Is that scalable? At the time, I didn't care. I wanted to find a way. So I was like, okay, we're going to pre-screen everybody. We're going to do the mentor matching, which we're really great at. And we're going to do all the sessions so we can track them. We're also going to do surveys, and we're going to find out what these women are talking about so we can learn and grow. And then we're also going to, if employers are paying for these women, who wanted employers to be involved, you need to sponsor these women. So they pay for the service, essentially. We connect them with the right mentor match. We track all their sessions. We see them grow. So you're investing in these women, but they're also contributing to your company. So that is what we wanted to do. And the hardest part was to, have the pre-vetted pool of mentors. So thank you for being a mentor, Mel. You've been amazing. Your mentorship is a gift. But I started to reach out to my network, and we started with 10 mentees and 10 mentors. Yeah. That's how we started. And we learned and we grew. And now we're at over 100 mentees and over 150 mentors.
Amazing.
So it's, just, I think just even seeing that and learning through that, like how is it that we can actually help women grow?
Yeah.
How is it that we can actually help the companies realize and identify their top talent, because it's so biased. It's like, oh, Humaira might be great talent because she's so vocal. What about Sally, who sits behind her desk, but she's running your show?
Yeah.
Right? So I think just even being able to democratize that access to mentorship, connecting women with external mentors, based on relevance, based on experience, based on personality styles. So yes, we use part of what we had built, and are, really perfecting that algorithm and process of mentor matching, where our mentor matches success rate is 95%, which is amazing.
And and that success rate, like they stay with each other for a certain amount of time?
Our minimum commitment is 3 months. But I would say, so the first session now, obviously we've evolved a lot, is a meet and greet. And the meet and greet is a chance for people to see if this is you can, so a mentor can help, mentee likes the vibe, and they want to continue on. And 95% of the matches end up being successful.
Awesome. I loved my match. It was fantastic.
Right? Like, because there's ways. Yeah. So we really, I think this is where we do really well. We do mentor matching. We also offer a fully managed service, which is really great for both companies and mentors. So being able to provide that consistent service, being able to provide that platform where if you came to us and said, I don't like my mentee match, you know what? We can break up for you. So being able to do all those things where traditionally you can't, or so hard to do, in a way that works for both you and the mentee. So I think just even managing, providing the consistent service, making sure sessions are happening, making sure people are getting value. So all of that, the things that nobody wanted to do or did do, we started to do, and they started to work. So now we work with some amazing companies, some of the Canada's best companies, I would say, also bootstrapped, like Starfish Medical. We have MetaLab, which is the world's best design agency. We work with Schneider Electric. We're working with, we just expanded into US. So with a partner company. And we're working with Microsoft Atlanta, which is amazing. So I think just seeing that growth, again, the product market fit lesson learned is you do not have a product market fit unless you have customers who use what you have built, who pay for what you have built, who are happy with it enough that they talk about it. So people use it, they pay for it, they talk about it. Until you have those three things, you do not have product market fit, which we now have, which I'm absolutely like, this is where, I would say the biggest lesson learned, that yes, it's taken us 3 years, and yes, there's more work to do, and yes, we're going to evolve and iterate, but you do not have product market fit if you have users. You do not have product market fit if people are talking about you. You only have it when your users love what you have built, pay for it, talk about it.
Amazing. So many incredible lessons learned. I saw people asking, will this be recorded? So yes, so long as Instagram does what it's supposed to do. These are going to be living, this will be living on our IGTV. So here on the Volition profile on our IGTV, as well as Volition Advisors YouTube platform as well. So you can go back and watch that. And I see people are still joining us. So hello. Thank you to everyone who has joined us, whether live or if you're watching this recorded afterwards. If you are just joining us now, there's been some incredible conversation up till now, and as I mentioned, it's going to live on our IGTV. So please do come back and watch, because we heard about the origin stories of Locelle and some really incredible lessons learned from Humaira on her journey that you've been so kind to share with us and be open about those really difficult moments in your in that journey. So please do come back and watch it if you are just joining us now, everyone. I know we're wrapping up. We're actually a little bit over already, and there's so much more that I want to talk about.
I just looked at the time.
I know there's so much that I still want to talk about. So we're gonna have to have you back, I think, because I know there's so many. You've already touched on so many really important entrepreneur kind of lessons, but then you also are working on, you have a lot to say, I know, about taking time for yourself and taking time off, and about building a team as well, that I would love to dive into. but maybe we can kind of like just touch on those, and we can like tease people with that, and then
Sure.
have another chat about that in the future.
Sure.
But what I do want to ask that I haven't got into yet, is what is your vision for Locale if you were to look into the crystal ball?
Oh my gosh, I have such big plans with Locale. One, which I haven't shared this with anybody yet, so let this be the platform. I
Yeah.
think we're going to rebrand this by the end of the summer. Just because even though I worked so hard to build the brand, Locale, is no longer what it was.
Yeah.
It's no longer really connecting local women. Local women kind of sounds like a dating app, but like women locally with each other. We've gone beyond that. We have global, kind of mentees, mentors, and we're looking to add, allyship, sponsorship. There's a lot that's coming up. And we need a brand that can grow with us. So there's definitely huge plans. And I do think, we heard that mentorship, is not enough. We see, having worked with over 100 mentees and over 100 mentors, we see where some of the challenges are that we can help solve, as well as really contribute towards creating equitable workplaces for women. And so I think allyship is the next step, and then sponsorship, obviously. But we have so much exciting stuff coming up, like really anything you think of, professional development for women in the workplace in a way that helps them grow and thrive, and not just survive and just, not have that support. We want to do all that. And we want to be the place where companies go and they go, you know what, we have these amazing women. We want to recruit more women. We want to invest in them. What's the easiest way to do it? It's through Locale. So those, I would say that's my big audacious goal, is that we work with every company out there that has women working, people who identify as women, and they can grow professionally and personally.
Okay. So what can we do as your community to support you in that vision?
Yeah, if you know of any companies that have women, minimum 10, and you see that they could use something like this, they can invest in them and help them grow, whether they can bring mentors or mentees, just share with them about what we do. And we all know at least one company that could use Locale. So that would be great because we're growing.
So exciting. All right. So everyone go check out locelle.com, and that's Locelle, locelle.com. And then you can also obviously hang out with Humaira and Locelle on Instagram here at Locelle app, but also on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn as well. And on LinkedIn, it's just Locelle. And if you follow or hang out, Humaira, are you still doing your like videos on LinkedIn that you used to do?
I will be doing more now. Yeah.
It's been been a time. It's been a time.
It's like growing pains too. I think it's been growing pains for us, and just looking at things internally and seeing we cannot continue to scale or grow if our internal processes are not in shape.
Yes, that has been Volition's number one lesson learned this year, I think, because we've also had growing pains, also had a pivot, and that product market fit kind of conversation, found our place that we are able to grow, and now we're like, ooh, now we gotta like make sure we can actually do this with automation processes and being really intentional with that. So feel you on that. That's a really interesting and exciting and scary moment in the growth of the company.
Yeah, but that's how you're growing, right? Like I feel like any challenges that are thrown my way or our way, it's an opportunity to solve them. And it's an opportunity to grow. And taking challenges as like fun problems to solve. Yeah, that makes things better for sure.
Absolutely. All right. So to kind of wrap us up, is there anything that we didn't get to talk about, which I know that there's things we didn't get to talk about.
I know that we don't have too much time. I do believe, I think diversity thing we could talk about another time because it's a much bigger topic. But at Locale, we have been able to have diverse team, like all women, which I am not complaining about, but from different backgrounds, which is incredible. But also I would say the biggest thing as a founder, one thing that we all neglect in this hustle culture is that, we need to make time for ourselves. And I know it sounds like very cliche, but I have actually found firsthand that now I'm able to delegate with the team that we have, trust them with the work that they do, that I can take time, make time for myself. And I feel like I actually was one of those people that would look forward to a Monday. And I still do, because I could work guilt-free. Like, oh, it's Monday, so it's work day, right? Because I still worked on the weekends. But now, after this, actually this long weekend, I was like, can we have another day? Like, we need another weekend to recover from the weekend. Not that I did anything wild, but you know, it feels nice to have a little bit of that normalcy in that, you know, my family's time is so important. And when I do come back to work, I'm a much better leader. And I actually, my brain is working better because I'm giving it that time to rest. So please, this is not cliche. The burnout's not going to help you. The hustle, yes, please hustle. So work hard to work smart. But I think that when you are able to make those moments for yourself as a founder, please take that time. I cannot stress that enough. And you'll be you'll feel better, you'll do better. And I'd rather do 10% work, but do it so incredibly well than to work 100% of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I just saw another founder, Maxine, Pick My Brain, was posting about a podcast she listened to. I think it was Startup Therapy. I was just about to go and get it, and it said like the episode was about how startups are built at the expense of the founder. And I just saw it right before I jumped on here. I was like, oh, I need to listen to that, because I hear that over and over again. And then I also hear, especially in the last year and maybe 2 years, talking about mental health of founders and having these conversations and hearing from people such as yourself championing that and saying like, yes, you know, I've taken that road that took me to burnout and that wasn't okay. And like, I'm still learning and growing, but this is important. I think having role models like you for other founders is very, very important. So I think we should definitely have that conversation again in the future. I would love to talk to you about that. I think it's something that we jam out on whenever we actually do talk. Whenever we do, we talk about for a few hours at a time. Amazing. So thank you so much, Humaira, for being here, for sharing with us all of your lessons and wisdoms that you brought to us here today. And the people in the chat saying that this is incredible and that the things you're talking about are still happening today in terms of what happened to you and to Locelle. At the beginning of COVID, we're still seeing some of those trends. People were saying, are you going to be sharing this? Are you going to be keeping this? All of this kind of like chit chat in the chat. Chit chat in the chat. You know, that we're so grateful for you. And for you to be here and share. So everyone, please do go check out Locelle.com. Humaira, where would be a good place for people to connect with you directly if they wanted to?
I would say the best place is LinkedIn. Just because I'm a lot more active there. I've decided to choose one platform that I am consistently posting on, and my personal Instagram. I don't really respond to messages there. So just being candid, that's more personal, but LinkedIn, absolutely. If there's any way I can help, especially founders, absolutely.
Cool. All right. So head over to LinkedIn. We'll put a link to that in the notes when we post this on IGTV, everyone. So thank you again so much. And I'm typically here every week around this time talking to other incredible founders. And tomorrow we have an Amplify Live if anyone's interested in coming and meeting 5 founders who will be pitching, and they're from all over the place, from across Canada, also from Iran and Amsterdam. Amazing. And kind of everything from like kids books and food to AI and an entrepreneur kind of networking space. So
amazing.
Or it's entrepreneurs who are looking to move out of entrepreneurship, actually, I believe. So anyways, it is it's an interesting one. So if anyone's wanting to check that out.
I'd be like, I was saying to Dave, I would never go back.
I know, I know, but it's not for everyone. It is not for everyone, and
it's true. It's true,
and that's not a bad thing. If you try it out and you're like, no, then you know what? Totally. That's great too. I cringe at the idea of having having to work for people.
Absolutely.
Anyways, thanks so much, and
thank you.
Best of luck. So excited for you to be launching in the US, to be launching your MVP later this summer, I believe. And we're going to definitely keep in touch, and we'll make sure to have you back. Thank you.
Thank you. Can't wait to be back. Bye, Mel. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.